If you've ever been lied to so cleanly you started doubting your own memory, this is the part where you finally get your justice. I'm Evan, 38, the kind of sysadmin who talks softly to servers and loudly to audit logs. Austin, Texas is home. Heat you can taste, tacos for currency, and traffic that teaches patience or breaks it. For the longest time, I thought patience was my superpower. Then I learned patience can be the prettiest mask for denial. The day it started was an ordinary Tuesday wrapped in polite emails. Maya, my wife, texted a heart and client dinner in Dallas. Don't wait up. I was looking for her spare key fob because mine had migrated to the same dimension as missing socks. I reached into the drawer where we toss receipts, headphones, and promises we intend to keep. My hand brushed a cosmetic pouch that wasn't supposed to weigh that much. I unzipped it. Inside was a small pharmacy and a tiny circus. I won't get graphic. I'll just say none of it was prescribed to me. The brain does two things at once when it's ambushed. It says, this can't be real, and at the same time, it labels every object, logs every detail, and tucks away timestamps like a crime scene camera. I zipped the pouch up, placed it exactly where I found it, and sat down on the edge of the bed. Our ceiling fan leaned into the room with its usual hum. In the window, evening gathered like dark honey. I heard my own breath and an old memory. My dad telling me that if you think you've been insulted, count to 10. And if you know you've been insulted, count to 100. I made coffee and counted to 1,000. Here's the thing about running security for too long. You stop reacting to alarms and you start reading patterns. I didn't storm anywhere. I didn't call Maya with a voice like breaking glass. I opened my laptop, tunneled into the quiet, and did the thing I do better than yelling. I looked. Her calendar had a client dinner at 7 in Dallas, which is not unusual. The guest list was ordinary if you don't look hard. If you do look hard, you notice initials that repeat in different contexts, and an RSVP forwarded not to a client domain, but to a private address with a name I'd seen in tech news, Graham Cole. Dallas-based fintech, half profit and half advertisement. His company's brand videos look like if money could do yoga. When people like Graham have reputations, the internet keeps a scrapbook. I didn't need to invade privacy. Public crumbs were everywhere. Press releases, tweets he liked, charity boards he sat on. In a photo from a conference 2 months prior, Graham is at the center of a round table, and 3 seats to his left is Maya, head tipped in a smile that I used to think was ours. The caption reads, post-panel dinner with the brilliant minds. I clicked through. In another image, a waiter is pouring wine while 2 people lean close, shoulders angled like a secret. The XIF data said the restaurant was in Uptown. I closed the tab and stared at my reflection in the black laptop screen. I did not see a man who wanted to torch his life. I saw a man who wanted the truth to put its hands on the table. I wrote 3 rules on a sticky note and put it next to my keyboard. 1, no crimes. 2, no public scenes. 3, no decisions in anger. If you're waiting for a hero speech, that's not this story. This is a slow turn of a wrench, 1 click at a time. Maya got home late Wednesday. The house shifted around her like it always did. Bag down, shoes off. Hello, kiss. That smelled faintly of cover story. We made small talk about clients and the neighbor's new truck. I didn't mention Dallas. I asked if she wanted pancakes on Saturday. She smiled like I was adorable. Thursday morning, I asked if she'd seen my old phone charger. She said maybe check the same drawer. I did. The pouch was gone. That didn't worry me. People in trouble clean. Only within arm's reach. That evening, when she showered, I noticed her phone face down on the counter, careful like a closed eyelid. I let it be. Instead, I ran a thought experiment. What if denial is the sand that a house sinks into? What if every day you let the lie go unchallenged? A little more of you goes missing. I didn't want to go missing. Friday, I booked a day off under the title Patch Window. At 9, I drove to a co-working space on South Congress where no one would know me. There, I drafted a timeline with no adjectives. Adjectives are how we lie to ourselves. Facts are rude in a helpful way. Credit card charges, dinner at N, Dallas that Tuesday, 7:43 p.m. Rideshare receipts, drop off at the Clayton at 9:11 p.m. Calendar entry, breakfast, G, Wednesday, 8:30 a.m. at a hotel cafe next to a lobby where everyone pretends not to eavesdrop. None of this proves intimacy, but it proves momentum. And momentum, given time, finds a wall. I wanted the wall to be truth, so I called an old friend from college, Sol, who now works in crisis communications. He deals with executives whose public image is a weather balloon, bright, high, and one pin away from disappearing. I asked him a hypothetical about hypotheticals. He told me 3 things. 1. Powerful men fear silence more than accusations. Silence makes people imagine their own worst version. 2. Discovery is a school you don't want to enroll in. 3. If anybody asks you to sign a non-disclosure, have your lawyer price the silence in a language they understand. I thanked him. Then I took a walk to cool down the part of me that wanted to run. That night I made dinner, chicken with lemon, and a salad that was too honest about arugula. We ate, we talked, and somewhere between, "How was your day?" and "Do you think we should repaint the hallway?" Maya mentioned a new account win in Dallas, and how travel might become more frequent. She said "we" a lot when she meant she. I nodded like a friendly stranger. "I'm proud of you," I said, which was true in the way you can be proud of a sunset and angry it's not noon anymore. Saturday is when the story turned. Graham posted a short clip from a charity breakfast. He's laughing with a city councilman. Then his face shivers. Then the clip ends. Comments flood with hearts and starry eyes. I noticed what wasn't in the frame. Maya. That evening, Maya told me she had a Sunday planning session with her team. She packed a bag with the ordinary things: laptop, chargers, a blazer. The pouch didn't reappear. I'm not a saint. I'm also not a vandal. But I am, to put it kindly, thorough. There's a way to test a narrative's strength without touching fragile things. You watch for contradictions. People in dangerous stories repeat themselves. They recycle alibis like grocery bags. When they do, the seams tear. Sunday night, I brewed coffee for 2, even though she said not to wait up. I wanted the cups to sit there like a question. She came home with tired eyes and a new perfume that didn't match the brand in our bathroom. She slipped past the cups like a dancer. We slept back to back, which is a statement you make without words. Monday morning, I asked her to lunch. We met near her office, a place that charges extra for sincerity. She grimaced at her phone, smiled at me, and said she had 15 minutes. I asked about the client's pipeline. She lit up, spreadsheets in the air. Then, because I believe in the moon, even when I can't see it, I said, "Do you ever feel like we're a team that forgot what we're playing for?" She blinked. "You're being weird," she said with a laugh that tried out a few pitches before landing. When she went back to work, I didn't follow. I typed a name into my browser. Family Law, Attorney Austin. I made one appointment. I didn't expect to use it. I expected to get my mind back. Tuesday night brought a breeze and a text. Spontaneous Dallas trip. Don't be mad, big client. With a sun emoji that felt like an alibi certified by weather. I replied, "Be safe." Then I did what patience does when it grows a backbone. I drove. The I-35 at 9 p.m. is a playlist of brake lights. I set cruise control to something reasonable and let my thoughts arrange themselves into calm furniture. Whatever I found, I told myself, I would act as if the room had people in it. I arrived at a hotel bar in Dallas where executives go to practice being relatable. I didn't go inside. That's not the game. I sat across the street at a cafe that keeps late hours for poor decisions and brilliant ones. I watched the lobby like a documentary. Arrivals, departures, people hugging their own phones. At 10:06 p.m., the elevator doors opened and Maya stepped out with Graham. He touched her elbow in that proprietary way wealthy men treat borrowed things. She looked both ways, the way you check for traffic when you know there's a camera. They walked toward the restaurant. I didn't stand up. I didn't cause a scene. I took a photo because memories are messy and pixels are not. Then I drove home through a night that clung to the windshield. On the way, I thought about cruelty. I think there are two kinds. There's the kind that wants to make a point in neon. And there's the kind that wants the truth to be undeniable. The second kind isn't flashy. It's a ledger. Wednesday afternoon, I sat in the lawyer's office, hands on my knees like a kid at the principal's. The attorney, a steady woman in her 50s, with a ring that said she'd argued with giants and won, asked me what I wanted. Not what I was mad about, what I wanted. Clarity, I said. A way to leave, if leaving is right. Protection, if I stay. She nodded. Document. Don't antagonize. Don't self-sabotage. And don't promise anything you can't live with. Then she explained options in measured syllables. In Texas, there are no magical words that fix betrayal. There's process, there's property, and there's paper. If there's any talk of money in exchange for silence, she added, you bring it here first. Thursday, an email rumor started its jog through the industry. A big Dallas fintech might face leadership turbulence. A blogger friend pinged me a draft headline he wasn't going to run yet. It mentioned Graham's name, not his sins. Rumors are heat without light. I ignored it. Friday night, Maya came home early with flowers and the expression people wear right after a rehearsal. She set the bouquet down and launched into a monologue about how crazy people can be online and how important it is to trust each other. I asked, is there anything I should know? She said no with the confidence of a practiced gymnast. I told her I had an appointment Monday to discuss our finances. She didn't ask why. She went to shower. The bouquet watched me from the table like a witness. Saturday, I did laundry because a man should do laundry. I found a receipt in her pocket for a hotel cafe and a note scribbled on the back. Twos, room 1420. Confirm with M. I placed the receipt in a folder and labeled it, for me, not against you. Sunday morning, I went to church for the first time in years, not for absolution, but for quiet. I sat in the back like a man watching his life through a window. The sermon was about truth being a light, even when it hurts your eyes. I'm not saying this is what changed me, but something in me rearranged. I decided the confrontation was coming, but it would be surgical, not cinematic. Monday dawned with the smell of cedar and the sound of Maya humming in the kitchen. She kissed my cheek like a peace treaty. I said we should talk after work. She said she had a dinner. Again, I said I'll be here. As the day folded into evening, my phone buzzed with a message from Sol. He'd heard a rumor that Graham's board was sensitive to anything that could sour a pending partnership. PR men always know where the fabric is thinnest. If anything real drops, Sol texted, he'll overcorrect. I asked what that meant. He'll either deny so loudly the echo does the damage, or he'll try to buy quiet. I put the phone down and stared at the pattern on our rug. I wanted dignity more than spectacle. That night, I set the table for two again. Maya didn't come home on time. I ate slowly. I left her plate covered and warm. At 11, the front door opened on a gust of cologne that wasn't in our house that morning. She moved quietly, like guilt knows how floors creak. You're up, she said. I am, I replied. We need to talk. She froze, a deer practicing politics. About what? I slid the folder across the table. Inside were the credit charges, the photo from the hotel lobby, the receipt with the room number. I watched her read the way a nurse watches a monitor. She set the papers down and went for anger first, then condescension, then tears, as if truth were a safe with multiple dials. It's not what it looks like, she said. It was exactly what it looked like, but I didn't say that. I said, you're allowed to tell me the truth. I'm not going to yell. She sat. Every performance has an end. This was it. It started as work, she said. It became not work. She laughed a small laugh that collapsed under its own weight. It's over, she added, the favorite line of people whose present tense betrays them. I want us, she said. I want to fix this. I nodded. I want answers, I said. And if you're asking me to fix this, I need you to accept consequences, real ones. She looked at me like I'd switched languages. What consequences? She asked. Boundaries, I said. Transparency, and if his world bleeds into ours, then we go to ground that has rules. Her eyes flashed. You're not going to make a scene, are you? I smiled, not kindly. I don't do scenes, I said. I do documentation. The next morning, a journalist published a soft piece about executive character, the sort of moral essay that never names names, but sets the table for later courses. Graham responded online with a slick video about leadership and family values, which is what people say when their lawyers are warming up. By evening, my attorney had drafted a letter that didn't accuse, it invited. It invited Maya to a conversation about separation and invited the other party to consider the cost of distraction. We sent it. Silence followed, then a phone call with a number I didn't recognize. Evan, a voice said, this is Cole. He didn't sound like a commercial. He sounded like a man who'd skipped lunch. We should talk, he said. About what? I asked, as if I didn't know. About misunderstandings, he said. About keeping private matters private. Private is what we were, I said. You brought us public. He exhaled a laugh without humor. What do you want? He asked. That, I realized, was the first honest question anyone had asked me in weeks. I want to live in a life that tells the truth, I said. Everything else is logistics. So logistics, he repeated, trying to turn it into a number. Have your people call mine, I said. I don't have people, he replied, which was a lie wearing loafers. Then call my lawyer, I said, and gave him the number. When I hung up, the house felt larger. The air moved differently, like someone had opened a window in a room I'd forgotten. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt like a man who'd finally stepped on solid ground after weeks of performing on a moving walkway. That night, I slept facing the ceiling, hands folded, and dreamed nothing. Morning brought 2 emails. One from Maya asking for time off to focus on personal matters, and one from my attorney. Preliminary outreach received. Prepare for proposals. I made eggs. I fed the neighbor's cat because the neighbor was out of town, and the cat believed in me. I waited for the part where a life either breaks or bends. And when the phone rang again, I answered. The call arrived at noon, the hour when offices hum and people pretend their lives aren't leashed to outcomes. My attorney patched in. On the other end, a general counsel with a voice like polished marble did the introductions. Graham came on last, clipped and careful. The conversation was a circle drawn on the floor. We all knew the lines. No one wanted to step outside them. They asked what I needed to feel comfortable moving forward. I said comfort wasn't the product here, clarity was. Then let's clarify, counsel said. He proposed a mutual understanding that would keep distracting narratives out of view. The phrase distracting narratives is corporate for truth that disobeys. Before we talk about non-disclosure, my attorney said, we need to talk about accountability. Everyone was quiet a full second too long. Lawyers dislike nouns with souls. I wasn't interested in theater. I said 3 things. 1, I would file for separation. 2, any settlement that asked me to be dishonest would be declined on arrival. 3, if there was an offer, it should arrive in writing with no adjectives, just amounts and terms. We'll confer, counsel said. Do, my attorney replied, and ended the call like closing a lid. That, she told me, was the sound of a man calculating the price of keeping his narrative. She smiled thinly. You're not selling. Maya came home early, keys nervous in her hand. She looked like she'd been crying the kind of tears you ration. We sat at the kitchen table, the table where we once argued about light fixtures and now argued about light. She started with, I'm sorry, moved to, I didn't mean to hurt you, then to, I don't know who I am anymore. The last one landed. I told her I believed she didn't set out to break anything. I also told her intention is the alibi of impact. She nodded, a slow, painful agreement with reality. "What happens to us?" she asked. I said the hardest sentence I've said as an adult. "We stop being us." She flinched, like a cord snapped. "We don't have to hate each other," I added. "We just have to be true." We sketched logistics with the dull pencil of practicality. She'd stay with a friend for a few weeks. We'd divide the account passwords like towels. We'd tell our parents the kind version. We'd be civil at the coffee shop if we ran into each other, because we are not the movie where they drop plates. When she packed a bag, the house bent around the absence. I took the framed wedding photo down and set it gently in a box, as if it could bruise. That night, Sewell texted, "Watch his channels." He meant the digital kind, not television. The streams where reputation trickles and then floods. Graham posted a video that used the word family 5 times in 3 minutes, the way a storm uses the word brief. Comments split along familiar seams. Fans gushing, critics sharpening. A row of popcorn emojis marching like soldiers. I read exactly 5, then closed it. The internet is a carnival where everyone is both performer and mirror. I didn't want to live inside it. 2 days later, counsel returned with paper. It was tidy, as expected. There were numbers for transition. There were clauses for quiet. There were words like amicably and without prejudice. And there was a sentence that might as well have been printed in invisible ink. "Don't make us look bad." My attorney annotated in the margin with questions that stripped the friendliness off each clause. When we were done, the amicable document looked like a lab dissection. "You don't need this to heal," she said. "But if you want to be compensated for time wasted, we can translate your pain into their language." Money is a language. It never says sorry. It says noted. I went for a walk instead of answering. Austin's late light pooled in the branches. Cicadas cheered for reasons known only to them. There's a specific quiet a city holds right before dinner, the hour when decisions hover and the oven preheats. I thought about justice and whether mine needed to shout. I thought about Maya and whether kindness and boundaries can share a house. I thought about the young version of me who believed marriages were castles and forgot to check the drawbridge. I came home and brewed tea like an old man who had earned it. Then I called my attorney. "Here's what I want," I said. "I want a clean separation with no gag orders disguised as goodwill. If there's a practical settlement tied to the disruption this caused, I'll read it. But the price of my silence can't be the cost of my dignity." She breathed out, a sound like relief. "That," she said, "is a position I can defend with both hands." The board did what boards do when heat hits the glass. It issued a statement about governance and stewardship. The markets did what markets do when uncertainty arrives. They twitched. Within a week, whispers turned into sentences. Nothing explosive, no bomb, just a long exhale that lowered the room's temperature. A trade publication ran a piece. FinTech CEO steps back from day to day. The verbs are always careful. Steps back, refocuses, transitions. You never see the verb that tells the truth. Consequences. Maya and I met once more at the lawyer's to sign papers that make a story official. Her hand shook a little when she wrote her name. Mine did too. We were kind to each other on purpose. When we stepped outside, the sun had the audacity to be beautiful. She touched my sleeve. "You were good to me," she said, a sentence people save for funerals and endings. "You were good to me too," I said, because not all truths are shaped like knives. The offer that finally arrived from counsel was smaller than rumor and larger than insult, an amount that said, "We're not guilty, but we're realistic." It couched the figure in phrases like efficiency and resolution. It asked for privacy, not silence. That mattered. We accepted with revisions that dialed down the euphemisms and dialed up the clarity. When the wire hit, I felt nothing like triumph. I felt like a ledger balancing after months of numbers written in the dark. What I learned next arrived quietly, wrapped in the ordinary. Healing is boring on the outside. It looks like taking walks and buying soap and remembering to eat breakfast. It's canceling the gym membership you never used and finding a dentist because pain has your attention now. It's relearning sleep on a bed that feels strange and then yours. It's answering friends who ask, "You okay?" with "Not yet, but I'm oriented." I set rules for the new house. No catastrophizing after 10 p.m. No rereading old messages. No rerouting my entire life around a person who chose a different season. I put the boxed wedding photo in a closet I didn't open often. I started cooking again, badly at first, like language learned in adulthood. On a Thursday evening, when the sky looked like a bruise healing, I went to a small clinic to ask about stress and sleep, and a chest that felt too tight in the quiet. The nurse practitioner who saw me had a steady voice, and a way of smiling that recommended patience. She asked efficient questions and listened the way people listen when they don't need to talk next. Her name was Lena. She sent me home with a sensible plan and the kind of practical hope that doesn't promise miracles, just mornings. Weeks became a lane I could walk without checking every shadow. Graham's company announced a strategic partnership that read like a lifeboat. He posted fewer videos. The comment sections aged in dog years. One afternoon, a coworker sent me a screenshot of a headline about a board reshuffle. I typed "wild" and put the phone away. Some victories look like fireworks. This one looked like a sunset that arrived on time. I ran into Maya at a grocery store a month later in the aisle, with honest fruit and dishonest cereal. She looked different in the way people do when humility has visited. We spoke for 5 minutes about nothing and everything, and then we stepped out of each other's light. In the parking lot, I realized I could breathe without counting. The first time Lena and I had coffee, it was an accident. I'd stopped at a cafe after a checkup, and she was in line behind me, explaining to a barista why a double espresso at 3 p.m. is a decision you negotiate with your future self. We laughed. We took our drinks to a table. Two people talking about books is one of civilization's better ideas. We didn't orbit the subject of my previous life. She didn't do that thing where people prod the scar to prove it's healed. We shared playlists like teenagers and tax strategies like adults. When we said goodbye, she said, "Take care." I heard, "Keep going." There's a version of this story where I become a prophet of vengeance. I'm not him. Revenge is a debt that compounds interest in your sleep. Justice, the kind I want, looks like choosing not to lie to your own reflection. It looks like leaving a room before you become the worst thing in it. It looks like sending the difficult email and then taking a walk because your body is also in this story. I kept the sticky note by my keyboard. No crimes, no public scenes, no decisions in anger. I added a fourth line in smaller letters. Build something. So I did small, unglamorous construction. I cleaned the garage. I learned how to poach an egg. I fixed a cabinet hinge that had been complaining for years. I restored a thrift store radio because the world sounds different when music has to fight its way out of wood. When the divorce finalized, I didn't mark it with champagne. I took a long drive on a road that doesn't apologize for being straight. I played an old album that smelled like youth. I pulled over at a lookout where the city is a model made of light. I said out loud, to no one and everyone, I'm okay. It wasn't true in the absolute. It was true enough to steer. Months later, I found the cosmetic pouch at the back of a closet I was clearing, which is either poetic or ordinary, depending on your appetite for symbolism. I held it in my hand like a museum piece from an exhibit titled Artifacts of Stories You Survived. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. I placed it in a donation box because someone else could reassign its meaning. I kept the space it left. One evening, Lena and I walked the trail by the river where runners collect sunsets. She asked me, out of the blue, how I knew when it was time to stop fixing what was broken. When fixing becomes a way to avoid feeling, I said. She nodded the way people do when a sentence lands. And how do you know when it's time to start something? She asked. When the quiet feels like a beginning, not an ending, I said, surprising myself. I don't offer advice much, but if you're listening to this because someone lied so well you almost turned on yourself, here's what I learned. Don't audition for the role of your own judge. Name what happened in nouns, not adjectives. Write down your rules and keep them when your heart wants to bargain. If an apology arrives, let it be what it is: information, not a contract. If a settlement arrives, translate it into hours of your life you get back and decide whether the exchange is honest. And when you can, build something, no matter how small, that didn't exist when the hurt started: a shelf, a friendship, a morning routine, a better password policy, anything that teaches your hands the opposite of breaking. One last thing. I used to think closure is something you capture, like a flag on a hill. It isn't. It's a series of permissions you grant yourself in the order you can bear. Permission to stop rereading. Permission to tell the truth without footnotes. Permission to stop holding your breath when the door opens. Permission to be the kind of person who can love again without publishing a press release about it. A few weeks ago, I took the boxed wedding photo out of the closet. I wrapped the frame in soft paper and mailed it to Maya with a note that said simply, "Thank you for our good years. May we both keep them." She replied with a single line, "We will." I don't know what will happen to Graham beyond the headlines I don't read. I don't care to. My life isn't a referendum on his. It's a vote I cast every morning for the person I'm still becoming. Some days I win by inches. Some days I learn the old lesson again: patience without denial, boundaries without bitterness, honesty without spectacle. That's what justice looks like when it stops performing. If you're waiting for the part where everything makes sense, I wish I could give it to you. What I can give is this. I'm standing in a kitchen that used to be a battlefield, making coffee that tastes like a promise kept. The window is open. Morning comes in on purpose. I'm not counting to 1,000 anymore. I'm just counting blessings that don't need to be capitalized. The server room in my head is quiet. The audit logs say, aligned. And when my phone buzzes now, it's usually nothing. A friend? Sending a meme. A calendar reminder to get my teeth cleaned. Sometimes it's Lena, asking if the river looks like a place that remembers us. It does. I put the mug down, turn off the light, lock the door, and step into a life that, for all its unremarkable moments, is true.